Star Trek, The Next Generation, Starfleet Academy, Breakaway, Chapter 1. Cargo Freighter, Alpha Quadrant, Sector C. Ensign Deanna Troi ran full tilt down the ship's corridor, banging her shoulder against the bulkhead as she careened around a corner. Pain shot down her arm, but she ignored it. She'd have to deal with far worse if her pursuers captured her. "They're right behind you," she thought frantically as the bulkheads whizzed past. Another corner loomed ahead. She skidded around it, dead end. Deanna quickly looked around, spotted an access hatch in the deck several meters away, and yanked it up. The service ladder below led down to the freighter's cargo holds. Hiding among the cargo might be her only chance. Deanna swung herself onto the ladder and closed the hatch over her head, locking it shut just as the pounding footfalls of her pursuers drew near. "Take that," she muttered, melting the locking mechanism with a short phaser blast. "Let's see if you can catch me now." As she scrambled down the ladder, Deanna's mind raced. "Those Orion pirates came out of nowhere. 1 minute we were alone on the bridge, and the next minute they were materializing right in front of us." The odds were in the Orion's favor from the start. 6 of them against 5 Starfleet officers, and the attackers had the element of surprise. Deanna and her away team hadn't even had time to draw their phasers before they were forced to scatter under a barrage of deadly disruptor fire. The Orions had taken up the chase with fierce delight. Deanna picked a deck at random, jumped off the ladder, and started running again. She slapped her comm badge, hoping for a reply, but not really expecting one. Twice before, the device had produced nothing but static, and she got nothing but static now. "The Orions must be jamming our frequencies," she thought as she ran. Then, how would she ever rejoin her comrades? "Don't worry, you'll find them," she promised herself. "They're probably hiding. Find a safe place to catch your breath, then use your empathic abilities to search them out." At this moment, Deanna's empathic abilities were of little help. She couldn't contact her people, couldn't see them, couldn't hear them. All she could sense was her fear, mixed with hard determination as they raced through the maze-like corridors of the old cargo freighter, just as she was doing. None of them were hurt, but Deanna dreaded the moment when she might empathically feel that status change. Somehow the away team had to regroup, but how? Where? "Find them," she kept repeating as she ran. "You've got to find them." She rounded another corner. "Nadabe Kug!" shouted a harsh, deep voice. Reflexes responded faster than thought. In a flash, Deanna's phaser was in her hand, and she was blasting away at 2 Orions, standing not 10 meters in front of her. Their sudden appearance startled her enough that her shots went wild, but those shots were enough to drive the enemy back and around a corner. She sprinted down a long straightaway, praying she'd reach the end of it before the Orions resumed their chase. But no such luck. Though the Orions were still far behind, one of them managed to get off a disruptor shot that sizzled past Deanna's head so close that the heat of it made her wince. The blast hit an emergency equipment locker, and she was thrown against the bulkhead as the cabinet exploded. Her body lurched through space, an odd slow-motion sensation. It felt as if she were somehow floating upward and hitting her head on the ceiling. But when everything stopped spinning, Deanna found herself lying on the deck. Her head pounded with pain, and a loud buzzing sound reverberated in her skull. "What hit me?" came the fuzzy thought. Then her bleary eyes fixed on a small emergency oxygen canister lying nearby. "It must have hit my head when the cabinet exploded." Smoke billowed through the air, but Deanna resisted the temptation to cough. The Orions were still far away. If they believed she was dead, they'd take their time coming. Her only chance was to escape before the smoke cleared. Slowly, she rose to her hands and knees. "Your phaser! You dropped it when you fell!" Quickly, Deanna felt around the floor for it, but she touched only the scattered contents of the emergency locker. You're running out of time. They'll be here any second. Then something caught her eye. A service closet. Even through the smoke, she could make out its dark square shape. Deanna scrambled inside, barely managing to slap the close touchpad control before the sound of booted feet approached at a slow, confident trot. The footsteps stopped. Metal clanked against metal. One of the Orions must have kicked the oxygen canister with his metal-toed boot, and a gruff voice spoke. Even though Deanna didn't know his language, the pirate's curt tone clearly indicated anger. Snarling, he and his partner sped to the end of the straightaway, paused, and continued down the next corridor, their pounding footsteps fading away until the only sound Deanna could hear was the buzzing in her own head. "You're safe," she thought with relief. The closet door must have sealed so seamlessly it was invisible in all the smoke outside. As far as the pirates knew, Deanna had simply disappeared. With a trembling hand, she brushed a strand of hair out of her eyes. The gash on her forehead throbbed, and the buzzing in her head was growing louder by the minute, as if her pain had taken on a life of its own. She gasped, and leaning back against the bulkhead, tried to relax. "You might be in here for a long time. Get some rest while you can." Fatigue suddenly took her. Her eyelids drooped, her strength failed. As Deanna Troi collapsed to the floor, a question floated up through the muzziness of her brain. "How did you get yourself into this mess, Deanna? How in the world did you get into this mess?" Chapter 2. Starfleet Academy, Earth. Buzzing. There's a loud buzzing noise in her head, as if 1,000 angry bees were swarming inside her skull. Cadet Deanna Troi shook her head to clear it, but she succeeded only in making herself dizzy. A strong, cool hand steadied her. "Need you support?" inquired a pleasant, gurgly voice. It was the Ichthian female. Deanna remembered seeing her in the shuttle, sitting alone in the back, a tall, regal figure with iridescent blue-green scales instead of skin, and a tumble of long, thick, red-brown hair framing her exotic features, except for the fact that she had 2 human-shaped legs instead of one long fin. She might have been a fairy tale mermaid princess. She was stunning. Deanna smiled up at her. "Thank you, I'm fine now." The Ichthian inclined her head politely, then turned back to what they'd both been doing, staring at the grounds of Starfleet Academy spread out before them like a beckoning dream. But this is no dream," Deanna thought, glancing back at the shuttle that had just deposited her and the other new cadets on the Academy's landing field. "I'm here. I'm finally here." A career in Starfleet, adventure, exploration, the chance to work with people from the hundreds of worlds within the Federation. It was everything Deanna could ever wish for. But even better than that, it was a chance to be on her own. From now on, Deanna could run her life the way she wanted to. Finally, she could rely on her own judgment, make her own choices, lead her own. She winced again as her head throbbed with pain. The Ichthian leaned over and peered into her face with concern. "You are not well." "I'm fine," Deanna snapped. The harshness of her own voice startled her. Please forgive me. I really am okay. I just have to adjust to being on a planet where people don't shield their emotions. You see, I'm an empath." "Empath?" repeated the Ichthian curiously. "I can sense other people's emotions," Deanna explained. "Most betazoids are full telepaths, and we learn to shield our feelings and thoughts from others. Terrans don't shield their emotions." She winced again. "In fact, they're quite loud." The Ichthian's sea-blue eyes grew wide. "This pains you?" "Yes, a little." Then Deanna shrugged. "Okay, a lot. I just have to build up my own shields and defense, that's all." Through the riot of emotions bombarding her brain, Deanna felt the Ichthian's distress, a clear, high note of concern for her welfare. It was a nice thing to feel in this strange new place. "Look, I knew this would happen," she added, touched by the alien's concern. "It's one of the things I'll have to learn if I expect to become a Starfleet officer." The Ixian nodded in understanding. "Yes, we all have many new things to learn." "And not all of them have to do with classwork," Deanna thought. A wave of homesickness washed over her, and she sighed. What was Deanna Troi doing right now? Deanna figured that her mother was probably sitting on the garden porch, feeling terribly alone, gazing up at the sky and thinking of her only child so far away. Even now, across all the light years between Beta Z and Earth, Deanna could feel Loxana tug on an invisible umbilical cord, a cord that, unlike the original one, still held mother and daughter very close. But now the tug of that cord hurt. It felt like guilt. "Don't think that way," Deanna sternly thought to herself. "It's time to cut that cord once and for all. Mother was smothering you. She didn't give you a moment to yourself. You've got to live your own life." Still, the guilt pulled at her, deep inside. Deanna made herself recall the argument that had almost kept her from applying to the academy. "What in 9 fires has gotten into you, little one?" Loxana had said, flinging her arms in the air with typical hyper-dramatic emphasis. "You're from a noble family, and you want to run off and join an organization where you'll be duty-bound to obey the orders of any pipsqueak who happens to have more of those little silver dot things on his uniform collar than you do. What kind of life is that for an heir to the holy rings of Beta Z?" Deanna suspected that her mother was trying to irritate her into giving up. Loxana knew full well what those little silver dot things were. They were called pips, and they denoted a Starfleet's officer's rank. "I want to have a chance to earn my own rank," Deanna said. "If I stay here on Beta Z, my whole life will be planned for me." She hoped her mother didn't mind such a blatant accusation. After all, it was Loxana who would do all the planning if Deanna stayed. "I want to see what I can do by myself, Mother. Can't you understand that?" But all Loxana could see was her noble daughter taking orders from pipsqueaks with lots of little dot things on their collars. After an hour's grueling argument, however, Loxana gave in. "Oh, all right. You may take the entrance exams, but," she added, "only if you apply for the command track." "What?" "Mother, I don't want to command other people," Deanna protested. Loxana shrugged. "I'm sorry, Deanna, but I will not see my daughter waste precious years pooping decks on starships out in the middle of some black hole just to earn enough dots to get the respect she deserves by plain and simple breeding. You should be giving orders, not taking them. No," she said with finality. "It's a command track or nothing." So Deanna was in the command track. Amazingly, she'd scored well enough on her entrance exam to merit the position. But if she failed now, oh boy, she'd never hear the end of it. The Ichthian's gurgly voice broke through Deanna's brooding. "I wish you success in all your endeavors, fellow cadet." And with that, the alien picked up her bag and followed the other cadets who had debarked the shuttle and were now on their way to the administration building to check in. Deanna looked around. She was the only one still on the landing pad. The shuttle captain eyed her, tapping his foot impatiently. "Oh, sorry," Deanna muttered. She picked up her bag and hurried after the other cadets, hoping she had the strength to face the challenges ahead. The next 2 weeks flew by in a blur of new experiences. New classes, new faces, new routines, even a crisp new cadet's uniform. A fast-paced excitement pervaded the Starfleet Academy, as if the air itself were charged with the energy of learning. Deanna should have been having the time of her life, but she wasn't. Strengthening her mental shields turned out to be more difficult than she'd expected. No matter how hard she concentrated, there were times when she felt as if her own thoughts and emotions were getting smashed into a tiny corner of her skull, while the emotions of every other sentient being within 10 kilometers crammed in to use up all available thinking room. She couldn't concentrate. She was irritable and snappish. Regular relaxation periods and plenty of sleep might have helped, but Deanna could hardly manage either of those things under the pressure of her class load. She didn't dare tell anyone who would sympathize. After all, Deanna wasn't the first empath to attend the academy. If she let on that she was having problems, they might think her unfit for Starfleet. Building proper mental shields is a skill, little one, Loxana had warned her before she left home. Living on Beta Z all your life, why, you're used to dealing with highly disciplined telepaths who never dream of letting their emotions fly helter-skelter. But on Earth, it's quite another thing. You really ought to wait until you master more techniques. Deanna had been sure that her mother was just trying to keep her from leaving home. Now she realized that Loxana was right. But right or not, Deanna would manage. She had to. At least her living arrangements turned out well. Her assigned roommate was Twill de Chka, the Ichthian she met on the day of her arrival. Twill, that's a pretty name, Deanna told her. Twill designates clan, and de Chka designates my person. The Ichthian put a bizarre accent on the name that Deanna couldn't even hope to duplicate. The meaning is fire beneath the waves. Fire indeed, Deanna noted. Ditchika's long red hair was in striking contrast to her cool, ocean-colored body. Interesting. Ichthos was a water world. I guess that fish world. And though the Ichthians dwelled in great cities that floated above the waves, they spent most of their time wet. Ditchika was every inch a swimmer, from her webbed fingers and toes to the natural racing lines of her sleek humanoid body. Her scales were soft, and they glittered in the light. The lotion that Chika used to maintain sufficient body moisture added to the effect, making her glisten with an almost magical effect in full sunlight. Deanna liked her from the start, but she couldn't pronounce her name correctly no matter how hard she tried. Tell you what, Deanna offered. Suppose I call you by a nickname instead. Nickname? That is a term of belonging, correct? Ditchika's eyes sparkled with pleasure. Yes, you will designate for me a nickname. Deanna couldn't help but laugh at the delight radiating from the normally aristocratic Ichthian. Okay, she said thoughtfully. How about, Auburn? Ditchika just stared clueless. Auburn is a shade of red, Deanna explained. The color of your hair. Now Ditchika grinned. I approve. The nickname caught on, and soon every cadet who met the tall Ichthian knew her as Auburn. She was becoming quite popular. Strangely enough, Deanna herself wasn't doing so well in that area. In fact, for the first time in her life, Deanna Troi was having trouble making friends. Auburn seemed to be the only person whose emotions didn't cause Deanna mental distress. The Ichthian's mind was calm and cool like a tranquil ocean. Her emotions brushed up against Deanna's mental shields like soft waves lapping at a beach, not like a pack of frenzied Klingon targs trying to tear down a wall. Deanna didn't know if all Ichthians enjoyed such a peaceful mental state, but one thing was clear. Almost every other life form at the Academy, particularly humans, did not. I don't understand it, Deanna told Auburn during their second week at the Academy. I've never had trouble being sociable before. They were walking into the mess hall for dinner, and the big room was fluttering with activity. Lots of chatting and slurping, scraping chairs and clanking silverware. It sounded nothing like the orderly, servant-filled Troi household on Beta Z, but Deanna presumed it reminded other cadets of home, sweet home. I've met a lot of people here, Deanna continued, as she and Auburn headed for the counter laden with the evening's food choices. But I don't seem to be making a good impression. Auburn said nothing as the two of them scanned the available plates on the counter. Then suddenly Deanna gasped. I don't believe it. Excuse? Auburn asked. Deanna snatched a little glass bowl of rich brown foam off the counter, her mouth watering. Unless I'm mistaken, this is Thalian chocolate mousse. Thalian chocolate is the richest chocolate in the galaxy. Hey, you can't take dessert yet, said a short, studious cadet behind her. His name was Net Kenrick, and he lived 3 doors down the hall from Deanna and Auburn. You haven't eaten a main course. You better put it back. Sensation of paranoia shot out from Ned and pierced Deanna's mental shields, smothering her good mood like a wet blanket on a fire. What's the matter with you, Kenrick? She barked at the cadet. Are you so paranoid that you actually think they're watching to see if we eat our meals in order? And with that, she pushed her way out of the line and began looking for an unoccupied table, the bowl of mousse cupped protectively in her hands. What's the matter with you? Deanna angrily asked herself. You're acting like a child. Now everybody's staring. Indeed, she felt as if every pair of eyes in the mess hall was following her every move. In truth, only a few cadets had witnessed the outburst, but Deanna felt as if everyone was now judging her on the great cosmic scale of worthiness. It's not fair, she thought, plunking herself down at a corner table, away from everyone else. Every time I think my shields are firmly in place, somebody comes along and throws his mental static right at me. Then people act as if I've done something wrong. They don't understand what I'm going through. Deanna grabbed up her spoon and started eating. The foam was Thalian chocolate mousse, all right. Its creamy smoothness calmed her down. If only life could be as smooth as chocolate, she thought dismally, scooping up another spoonful, then another. Then she stopped, wondering, maybe Ned was right. Maybe someone was watching the cadets all the time, even here, monitoring their actions and choices, making little notes that went into their permanent files, recording every single... No, she thought angrily. Deanna, that's not how you feel. That's how Ned feels. His paranoia is still in your head. Get it out. She suddenly looked up to find Auburn seated across the table from her, gazing at her over a plate of raw seafood. As she'd done with her mother so many times, Deanna wiped the expression of rage from her face and instantly replaced it with one of innocent calm. Is something wrong? She inquired. I am wondering that of you, Auburn gurgled, and pointed at Deanna's bowl with a long blue finger. The bowl was empty. Deanna blinked down at it in surprise. It was really good, was all she could think of to say. Auburn plucked a bite-sized octopus from her plate and popped it into her mouth. Before the Thalian chocolate, you expressed to me a concern, she said after swallowing the little sea creature whole. Deanna didn't follow. A concern about impressions you fail to make on others? Auburn prompted. Out of nowhere, the image of the Loxana flooded Deanna's mind. First impressions are everything, little one, her mother had once told her. Why, just look at me, for instance. I always dress in my very best, and my manners are impeccable. After all, you never know who you may have to impress. Be quiet, mother, Deanna said quietly through clenched teeth. Auburn leaned forward as if trying to hear a whisper. Repeat, please. Oh, I was just thinking. Deanna toyed with her spoon, wishing she had more chocolate mousse. Auburn, by now everyone knows I'm an empath. Why can't they at least try to understand what I'm going through? They treat me like an ogre or something. The Ichthian smiled gently. The truth of Deanna Troi is buried deep, but I believe I see it. She leaned forward. Do you wish to hear truth? Deanna shivered a little. If it will help me, yes. Auburn spoke mildly but to the point. You led a privileged life on Beta Z, Troi. For this reason, you carry yourself in a haughty manner. Others are afraid to approach, though they may wish to. Deanna started to defend herself, then clamped her lips shut and just listened. You possess impressive beauty in the eyes of many cultures. Auburn continued in a matter-of-fact tone, adding, Ichthians included. Such beauty intimidates others. Beauty? Intimidating? Deanna wondered at that, but held her tongue. Your empathic gifts still pain you, Auburn went on. You struggle to shield yourself from the emotions of others, but your efforts give your face an appearance of... Auburn paused, and Deanna held her breath. Anger. None wish to meet an angry person. I'm not always angry, Deanna finally blurted out. I'm just having trouble keeping my shield strong. It takes a lot of concentration. For someone like Loaxana, it'd be a snap, but Deanna was new at this. She was trying so hard. Couldn't the other cadets see that? I also note, Auburn said dryly, that you often contradict others. I do not... Deanna stopped. Oh, good grief. Perhaps, Auburn suggested calmly. It is a strong desire to be independent that makes you reject the suggestions of others, even those suggestions concerning non-critical subjects. Deanna cringed. Like when to eat dessert. She wanted to crawl under a rock. I see now, Auburn. Thank you. No wonder nobody wants to talk to me. How could I have been so blind? Swallowing her pride, Deanna drew herself up straight again and met Auburn's gaze. All right, so what can I do? The Ichthian pondered a moment. You are complex, Troi. This is not one problem, but many. I offer you the advice my father offered me before I left Ichthos. See all, but act only on truth. Deanna nodded. She knew good advice when she heard it. Deanna maneuvered her way down the crowded corridor of the Xenosciences building, clutching her computer pad close as if it might shield her from the riot of emotions whirling around her head, trying to get in. She was not happy. Things just weren't working out. All the truth that Auburn had given her a week ago in the mess hall, all that stuff about being haughty and unapproachable and angry, it had sounded correctable at the time. But Deanna had spent this whole week trying to change her ways, and things were only getting worse. For instance, she should have been happy right now. She had just gotten a perfect score on a basic navigation pop quiz, and navigation theory wasn't even her specialty. But she'd studied the instructor, Lieutenant Dakota, as much as she had the class material. One thing had been obvious to her from day one. Dakota was a man who liked surprises. It was only natural to expect him to throw surprises at his students. When he popped the quiz, she was ready. Alex Rennie, a basic nav classmate, hadn't been ready at all. When the test scores were announced, his envy had overwhelmed her mental shields and polluted her thoughts, giving her a headache worse than any she'd had since arriving at the academy. As Deanna bulldozed her way through the crowd, heading for the Xenosociology lecture hall, she sensed an uncomfortable presence close behind her. Too close. She whirled around, and sure enough, there stood Alex Rennie. Rennie put his hands up as if to ward off a wild beast. Hey! He cried defensively. Deanna realized that she was the beast. Her expression was set in a furious frown, her eyes narrowed. Hey, what? She asked back, trying to keep the challenge out of her voice and failing. Rennie lowered his hands. I just wanted to congratulate you, Cadet Troi. You did, after all, score a perfect 100 on a killer quiz. I study a lot, Deanna answered carefully, sensing the hot, unpleasant wave of negativity emanating from him. She did her best to keep her shield strong. Excuse me, I have to get to class. But Rennie followed her. You're Betazoid, right? Deanna stopped. Yes, I am. Well, half Betazoid. My father was human. So you can read minds? No, I'm an empath. I can read emotions, but not thoughts. Rennie shook his head sympathetically. Too bad. Mind reading would sure come in handy at test time, I bet. Deanna froze. So that's what this is all about, she thought. I did not cheat on that pop quiz, Mr. Rennie, she told him flatly. With puppy, innocent eyes, Rennie held up his hands again. Whoa, now, I never said you did. But you feel that way. Ah, so you can read minds. It doesn't take telepathy to tell you're angry at me for scoring better than you, Deanna retorted. That's not fair. Funny you should use that word, fair, Rennie said, his voice low. What's not fair is that a mind reader can take an exam in a classroom full of non-telepaths. I told you. You told me you were empathic. Okay, Rennie corrected himself. But that still means you can sense things in other people's minds. There's no normal way you could have scored 100 on that test. Admit it. Deanna pulled herself up to full height, a move she'd seen her mother make when preparing to answer a direct challenge. With an aristocratic air that sounded more like Loaxana than she cared to admit, Deanna said, Just because I knew that Lieutenant Dakota would give us the pop quiz. Rennie's eyes widened. You knew? Oops. Deanna winced at her own poor choice of words. I mean, I expected one. Dakota's the type to give pop quizzes. That's obvious. Rennie's expression indicated that it had not been obvious to him. Look, Deanna said, I really do have to get to my next class. She made a hasty retreat, thinking, Shields, Deanna. Block his emotions. Don't let him get to you. But Rennie wasn't finished. Deanna, wait! He caught up with her, stepped in her path, and forced her to stop. Just look at it from my point of view. It seems to me, Mr. Rennie, that your point of view focuses on excuses, not performance, Deanna said frostily. I may not be a quantum mechanics major, but that doesn't mean I'm stupid. But you're rich, Rennie countered. They say you got special tutoring just to get into the academy, and I looked you up. Your father was in Starfleet, and your mother has Federation connections. Look, all I'm trying to say is you have an advantage, and it's not fair. How can I hope to compete with you? You're not supposed to compete with me, Deanna said, forcing her voice to remain calm as she backed away. Now please, leave me alone. She whirled around and headed for the double doors leading to the Xenosociology lecture hall. You just can't see it from my point of view, can you? Rennie called after her. Hey, I had to work my rear off to get here while you... Deanna finally exploded. She whipped around and faced Rennie for what she hoped would be the last time. I am not a cheater. I do not read minds to get good grades. I gained admittance to Starfleet Academy because I deserved it, and neither my father nor my mother had anything whatsoever to do with it. And with that, Deanna banged through the door leading to the lecture hall and saw Loaxana Troi standing on the dais, smiling at her. Deanna's jaw dropped, and so did the pad in her hand.